Do you know how sometimes it feels like you and your partner are speaking completely different languages and you can't get across each other, and then you end up just escalating and feeling so disconnected, and it's such a painful place to be in? Well, today Jonathan and I want to break down to you how we learn to communicate with each other so that we both can feel heard, feel seen, and then reconnect with each other. My name is Anne. I'm a wellness coach and a makeup artist. I help people glow inside out, build confidence, and build the life they love.
And I'm Jonathan. I'm founder of the Better Everyday Empowerment app that gives you positive affirmations and meditations to get you started on your day.
So today, like we mentioned, we are breaking down to you what we learn in couples counseling and also reading multiple books and going to workshops, how to communicate in a way where we both feel loved, seen, instead of feeling disconnected, yelling at each other, and feeling so hurt, so distant. This was life-changing for us. These communication tips really help us get our points across in a way that we both feel understood and where we both feel connected instead of feeling that we are more and more distant from each other, which I know is so common in relationships. In the beginning, you feel like everything is great because you're not really finding a lot of obstacles, and then you find differences, and then couples struggle to communicate through those. I've been in so many challenging situations in relationships where people weren't able to communicate. Even us, the two of us, sometimes we have challenges with communication, and even though we love each other, we both end up feeling pain, and alone and disconnected because we're not able to communicate. So we really hope these tips will help you just like they've been helping us.
So I think we should start with how to bring up conflict. If it's not something that is just like spur of the moment happening, conflict immediate, there are steps that you should go through to give yourself the most success. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you want to come to your partner if you have something that is bothering you or you need to bring to their attention, and you want to ask if it's the right time to have a conversation about something. So it may be that you are ready to talk about it. You've had all this time to prep the conversation in your head. You've prepped what you want to say. You've checked in with your feelings, and you're ready to package this up and present it to your partner. But your partner may have just had the worst day at work that they've ever had in their entire life. They had a rough day at home with the kids.
They're in their own world.
They're in their own world, doing their own thing. Maybe they're getting ready to go somewhere. Maybe they're feeling sick. Maybe their family's sick. You have no idea what's going on in their world when you come up to them. So it's very important, just ask, hey baby, is now a good time to have a conversation? There's something that's been concerning to me. And they can answer yes, or they can answer no. If they answer no though, make sure that you guys agree on a time that is appropriate for you to have this conversation, so you're left feeling like your issue, your thing that you're bringing to the table matters.
So if, let's say, Jonathan has something that has been concerning him, first of all, I highly encourage you to have the difficult conversations. Oftentimes I see people having some things that bother them, but they are so afraid to talk to their partner because they're afraid they're going to be sounding like a burden, they're going to be sounding needy, they're going to be judged. And ultimately in a relationship, you do want to have that safe space where it's safe for you to come. And one of the things that you need to work on is having the courage to bring up the conversations. And if that person proves to you again and again that they're incapable of listening, then of course it's up to you to move on. But you can't say that person is not a safe person if you, to begin with, don't have the courage to bring up the hard conversations. And ultimately, in the right relationships, the more hard conversations you have, the better, the more understanding of each other, the more you learn about each other, and you will get to the other side where you both feel closer. So before we begin all of these steps, I want you to know that that's okay to bring up the things that you need, that you prefer, and that's bothering you. We're just showing you how to do it in a way that lands well.
So something to add on to bringing up conflict, like Anne said. So there's this negative connotation around conflict in relationships. So in a lot of the relationship books that I have read, it talks that conflict isn't a bad thing in a relationship. That doesn't mean that you have an unhealthy relationship, an unhealthy dynamic, that the two of you aren't meant for each other. So conflict is okay. I promise you, you are safe to bring up your conflict. If you have a lot of conflict, it is okay. The determining factor that you should be looking out for and you should be correcting, if there is or is not, is if you guys are having difficulty reconnecting after conflict. So if you're going a really long time after your conflict or your disagreement without reconnecting, that is where you need to focus your attention, because the couples who are able to reconnect quickly after conflict are the ones that have successful long-term relationships.
And by reconnecting, we don't mean makeup sex that's like hot and toxic, you know. By reconnecting, we mean repair, like really truly making each other heard, seen, and not including sex. Obviously, after you repair, feel free to have sex, but we don't mean like, okay, pretend like nothing happened, which sometimes is the case. We mean specifically repairing the conflict. And John and Julie Gottman, they have this Gottman Institute that is very famous for like couples, and they specifically said like rupture and reconnect, and it's not the conflict that is showcasing that the couples are not healthy, is how they repair. And didn't you read in one of their books where I think Jonathan shared that they said in the first 2 years of a relationship or of a marriage, if a couple has high amount of conflicts, that's actually good, because that means a woman has the courage to bring up issues, and then that actually helps that marriage to last longer, versus the couples and the marriages where the first couple of years it seems like a fairy tale, nothing is really, there's no conflict. Then it actually means that the woman, specifically, I don't know why it said the woman, right, didn't have the courage to bring up the issues, to bring up the things that she didn't sit well with her, and you know, they're pretending everything is fine, but then that ultimately impacts the couple's longevity.
And the book that you're referencing is called Fight Right, by John and Julie Gottman. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. You can check it out get it on Amazon, wherever. But that one's really, really good.
Okay, back to step one, where the person A brings up what bothers them, right? And Jonathan did mention, if the other person, meaning B, is not able to have that conversation right now, and you really need to check with yourself, am I emotionally available for what my partner possibly can be expressing to me? Don't just be driven by curiosity, like, oh well, okay, now you gotta tell me. And then if you're feeling like you're agitated and you're just curious what is going on, please be mindful, because you do want to create a safe space for your partner to share. So make sure that you are truly mentally, emotionally available in case the conversation does go into an emotional route. And we'll share further why it's so important to be emotionally and mentally available. You'll see what the next steps what we share, and you'll be able to check with yourself, am I available to do all of these steps, right? But okay, so let's say if I'm seeing I'm not available right now, I'm fighting my own demons, I just woke up, I haven't had my coffee, which often happens, then it's my job to say when we can reconnect. So the other person doesn't have to do the guessing, the pushing, the waiting. So it's my job to be a safe partner and say, my love, I'm sorry right now, I'm not available, but how about tonight after your work? And be pretty specific. Or tonight after our dinner when we take a walk, I would love to hear what's going on.
So after you have established your safe place for communication, you've asked permission and you've got your yes, now is the time for you to bring your concern to the table. And there are steps that you need to follow if you want to have a successful communication of your concern, of your issue. So it goes something like this. You want to say, I feel this. It has to be a feeling that you are feeling, not you make me feel this.
Or you are
this. So we'll get into the pitfalls of specific words and stuff, but ultimately you're going to say, I feel this, and then you're going to follow that with an observable action that your partner has done, that anyone in the room could have observed happening. If there was a recording camera in the room when this happened, you have to describe what that camera would have seen. So, I feel X emotion when you do this observable action, And then after you've completed that part, the thing you're going to follow up with is a request. So you're going to say, I feel sad when you call me ugly. Can you please not do that anymore? That's just an example. I mean, I don't know what you guys are arguing about, but that's just an example. Mm-hmm. So, I feel this when you do observable action. I give you a request from there. That is the shell of what you're going to do. Now, a couple pitfalls that you want to watch out for is when you are communicating your feelings, it's important that you don't use things like,
you're so rude. Let's say,
okay.
like he said, it's the same thing. Let's say I called him ugly, which never happens. But let's say with the same problem, right? That's the problem. You're so rude. You're such an asshole. Like, that's something you want to avoid.
You don't want to be name calling when you're trying to bring your concern to your partner, because you're trying to address
action.
Their action is making you feel not well, ultimately.
Yeah.
So, and there's certain words that you want to avoid also. You want to stick to this very, very specific one-time interaction, because if you start using words like, you never do this, you always do this, that is going to escalate the whole situation, because then your partner is going to feel attacked, because that is personally attacking their whole character.
And also when you say you always, you never, what the partner's brain does is trying to find proof that that's not the case. Mm-hmm. So you're already losing, because the partner is no longer focusing on how you're feeling, but they're focusing on how to prove you're wrong, because It's not true that it's never, it's not true that it's always, it's not true. So they were like, no, I did that last week. No, I did that like 2 weeks ago. I said you're beautiful. Then it's your guys are going to be arguing about different things.
Yeah. So it's important to stick to that one observable action, because then your partner can focus in on actually that one specific case, and you guys can work around it from there.
And when you say how you feel, make sure also to avoid the I'm so sick and tired of you doing this and this and this, because do you hear how right away it's very escalated? You can say like, I feel very angry and I feel exhausted of like X, Y, and Z. But make sure you also check in with yourself and make sure that you are emotionally regulated, even though I understand it's so hard sometimes when your feelings are hurt, when you've been ruminating about this all day or multiple days. Just make sure you communicate with love still, like going into the conversation, always like pray and make sure that, I mean, if you don't pray, but make sure your intentions and your energy are of love and understanding. Maybe you are not understanding something, maybe they didn't mean it. Give people plenty of benefit of the doubt, and then say how you feel without like making it like a whole like, I'm so sick and tired of you.
Yeah.
You know, so
and oftentimes your partner most likely didn't intentionally hurt your feelings, and they don't even know that they hurt your feelings. So bringing this to them in a gentle way and not attacking, speaking to how you feel when they're doing their action is very important.
And if you're watching this right now and you are feeling like, no, my partner 1000% intended to hurt my feelings, because they always truly do that, then you need to ask yourself, why are you in that relationship? Anyways, back to B.
So after we have gotten through the I feel this because you did this observable action, this is my request, it now transitions to partner B for them to respond. And the way that they respond is they're going to mirror what you had just expressed to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what you were bringing to them.
There can only be one sender, meaning one person talking about their feelings, and one receiver, meaning I'm listening to him at a time. Don't be back and forth. So I'm receiving his communication right now, so my response would sound something like, so the way I respond right now, I want to mirror and I want to validate. I want to mirror him to make sure that he feels heard, and that looks like, what I'm hearing is that you feel hurt, or what did you feel?
We can go with hurt. I feel hurt when you call me ugly.
But what did you say earlier?
I think I said hurt. I don't remember. We'll just go with, well, the conversation is we'll just stick with I feel hurt because she called me ugly.
Okay. So the mirroring is, so what I'm hearing you say is that you feel hurt when I call you ugly. Sorry, we just never call each other ugly. So you feel hurt when I call you ugly. So that is mirroring. And mirroring is basically repeating what you heard in a non-sarcastic way, in a way to make sure, like, did I hear you correctly?
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately the goal.
You're checking your understanding of what your partner's bringing.
Yes, and that is to make sure you guys are not fighting about different things. Like one person saying here and the other person's talking here, and nobody's really talking about the same things. So I'm making sure I heard him correctly, and I ask him, is that correct? Or is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, and so then it's my opportunity to correct if they're not understanding. Say, no, I think that you're misinterpreting. Let me phrase it differently, or let me explain again, and then I can go say whatever it is that isn't being understood, and then it goes back to partner B. They'll do the exact same thing, and this goes back and forth until we were on the exact same page.
Yes, until when I ask him, is that correct? And then he goes, yeah, and then he truly feels I understood him and I heard him. That, you guys, is so goal and key, and this you can bring to any conversations at work, with your family. That is what is healing. That's what makes each of us feel heard, understood, and seen. So instead of feeling like aggravated, I never called you up, like, hold that. It can be so uncomfortable, but just stay with receiving and validating and hearing, mirroring. And then next thing, I will validate his feelings.
This is what it would look like to have someone validate the conflict that I just brought up.
That makes total sense that you feel hurt because I called you ugly. I'm so sorry I did that. And so validating is that it makes so much sense. I feel that would really frustrate you or hurt you when I did this and this. So you're admitting that you did that, and you acknowledge that that can feel hurtful. That it is hurtful.
That it is hurtful. It is painful. It is whatever emotion they're experiencing. Whether you believe your action constituted them to feel that way doesn't matter at this point. They feel whatever they feel, and it is your job to validate that feeling, because to them that is real. Whether it's real to you or not, your partner is hurt. Your partner is having an issue with what you said or with what you did. So when you come into this conversation, even if you don't agree with it, your job as the receiver is to validate that. I understand why that makes you feel this way. I'm very sorry that my observable action caused you to feel that.
And this is not the time to point back fingers at them, like, but you did this, you deserved it. Like, this is not the time. Your only job is to receive, to mirror, to validate, and when appropriate, to apologize.
Yes, and like what Anne said, it's not your opportunity to bring something to the table at this point. If you have something that you want to talk about, go through the same process that we did to get into this conversation. Hey, is now a good time? I have something that I want to bring to the table, and you bring that conflict up, but not while your partner is bringing something else up, because then that actually is invalidating to them.
Yes.
Because then it seems like you're listening just to throw something else back at them.
And you can always see when the person is just listening and they're like,
listening to
they're
respond.
not listening. They're not really receiving. So you can only bring up your stuff after the A person already feels complete. And how do you know it's complete? By asking, is that all? Do you feel complete? Is there anything else?
It's such a simple thing. Once partner B has validated, they check, and then that's it. And now I can either say, thank you for listening, I feel validated, or I can say, hey, like, something still feels kind of off, and you keep having this back and forth until you get to it. And ultimately, it's in the Fight Right book also. The majority of the conflicts that we have are going to be reoccurring conflicts that don't get resolved. So the job that you guys have as partners is not to resolve the conflict permanently. For the majority of the conflicts you have, it's just to make your partner feel heard and validated, and you guys can try to do better next time. But ultimately, you're going to have the same arguments over and over and over, and that is okay. You just have to come to repair.
Well, obviously, if you're calling your partner ugly, don't just apologize and mirror validate to call them ugly again.
That's different. Something like what...
Do try to adjust your behavior, of course.
Yes.
And that's the goal, to make sure you're hearing them, you're curious about what's troubling them, and taking appropriate actions to make adjustments.
And when I say that the majority of the conflicts we have are reoccurring, I'm not trying to encourage you to not clean up your side of the street and change and do better and be better for your relationship and be better for your partner. I'm just saying that you will oftentimes have conflict that is about the same subject more than once. And then, so wrapping up here, after I feel like I have been heard and I have been validated as the person who brought this conflict up, then it transitions over to my partner, and now they are able to be the sender, and you go through the same process. That's healthy conflict. And then afterwards, you guys can kiss and make up and have sex and go cuddle on the couch and watch a movie or whatever you guys want to do.
And just a couple of words about apologizing. There are a few ways to not apologize. I think we all think that we're such great communicators and we're such great at apologizing, but let's give a few examples of poor apologizing, shall we?
I have a great one. I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. If. You go next.
Hold on, I don't have one.
I'm sorry that happened, but you da 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 da.
Oh my gosh, but is the worst.
But.
If your apology has but at the end of it and you say something else, the apology completely disappears. Don't do that.
And definitely never call the person you shouldn't feel that way, or you're too sensitive, I didn't mean it that way, why are you overreacting, like that. All of those things are dismissive. It's not the end of the world. I'm sorry, but it's not the end of the world. It's not your job to tell the person how to feel.
And another thing along that same line is, I'm sorry I'm not perfect, I'm sorry I'm not better. Like that is just so dismissive of their experience.
Deflecting,
yeah. And it's like, you're kind of like not taking accountability.
Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't, I'm sorry I'm not perfect, I'm sorry that you didn't get what you need, like, you know, like in a way that is like clearly hurting the person even further.
Yeah. Why don't you go be with someone who can treat you better stuff. Yeah. That's toxic behavior. If your partner is doing that to you, go to counseling with them, have couples therapy, sit down and read the Fight Right book together. That gives you some good information about the 4 things that you want to avoid during conflict. I don't want to go into that now. We can have a whole other video just specifically on that. But for the sake of this, Anne mentioned something good during that though. So when it transitions over, after I've been heard and validated and it goes to the receiver to now become the sender, they can explain their side of it if they choose to. So if it is like, you know, oh, when I called you ugly, I was just X, Y, and Z. I was in this headspace. I'm really sorry that I did that, but it just came out, and you know, they have their point. It doesn't mean that they're dismissing what they did, but it gives them the opportunity to kind of explain. I know that calling you ugly it's not a good example,
it's a poor example, but like, let's say if you were short with me, then, you know, well, I was short with you, right? Let's say it's being short with each other, right? Let's say that happens more often than calling each other ugly, but then the person can say like, I just was so wrapped up and, you know, you were taking too long and I just like overreacted, I'm really sorry, and I know it's not a reason.
I can be better doing this forward. My intention wasn't to hurt you. Like, it just gives them an opportunity, because oftentimes, like, you know, when you're getting told you're doing something wrong, you kind of want to explain yourself. And once you validated and like brought that closure to your partner's conflict, you kind of get that opportunity. But just be mindful of your words to not backtrack on anything that you've done in your validation process?
I think ultimately it is about emotional regulation from both sides. Going into the conversation, make sure you're emotionally regulated. And when you're receiving the partner saying something that you did that upset them, this can feel so uncomfortable. And to many, many people, this is still something that they're not able to cope with, feeling the discomfort. And that's why people deflect. That's why people tell you that you're too sensitive, because ultimately they are not able to sit with their own discomfort. So again, when you are receiving, make sure you breathe, make sure you have tools to self-regulate. And that's where meditation again is so powerful, journaling is so powerful, self-work is so powerful. And so that way you can be present, be aware of your own inner discomfort, and continue loving your partner and be curious even if you're so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah. And that brings us back to the beginning. When you are agreeing to have the conversation, now that you know what it's going to entail, you're having those checks within yourself. Am I able to be accountable for my actions? Am I able to listen and mirror? Am I able to listen and validate my partner right now? And if you cannot answer yes to all of those, now is not a good time.
So this is it for today. If any of this is confusing, I know we threw a lot at you. It took us a long time to learn this. If you need help, we'll put a link below so you can have a consultation call with me, and I'm more than happy to share the personalized tips in your relationship. If you need help, like how to communicate to your partner, how to make sure that you feel heard, how to make sure you hear them. But we ultimately hope this helps you and your partnership. And if you're single, this should help you going out dating as well. I know that was game-changing for me in the dating game. Yeah, we hope to see you again.
Don't forget to check out our links down below, and we'll have a Calendly link for a free 30-minute consultation call of her coaching. My app is down there if you want to listen to some affirmations or meditations. You can also find our social media links. Go ahead and give us a subscribe, follow us on our accounts, and check back for more content. Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.